Hey everybody, Angelo here, and welcome to another amazing video about how gay men are easily manipulated. How many of us are pawns in someone else's game. That's right, we're going to talk about why is it that we are taken hostage, being emotionally blackmailed to participate in ideas that do not serve us, and how we easily become pawns in someone else's game. That's the topic for this video. If you've been paying attention to the news over the past couple years, watching what's happening in the world, I'm sure you've noticed that many of the things that you used to believe that are true or to be true are no longer true. Many of the people that you used to believe are your supporters are actually your biggest enemies. Many of the people that you used to trust, you lost that sense of trust. Many of the ideas that you believed were accurate are now coming out to be outright lies and deception. And in this video, I want to focus not necessarily on debunking these myths or these ideas, but I wanted to focus on the platform onto which these ideas come. I wanted to talk about why is it that some of us are so easily manipulated? Why is it that some of us are subject to cultural programming that is dysfunctional, but yet we believe those ideas to be true? We agree with those ideas without questioning them. We fall into playing someone else's game. And this, my friends, is important to talk about because there are lots of ideas out there that are really dysfunctional ideas, kind of like viruses in our social life today in 2019. And these viruses are spreading like wildfire. And it's important that you separate yourself from those patterns as they are playing themselves out in the culture. So if you've noticed, there's a lot more hatred in our cultures. There's a lot more emotionalism. There's a lot more violence or call to violence. There's a lot more of all the bad stuff that we actually never expected to see in our lifetimes, but yet it's all happening right in front of our eyes. And why is it that many gay men fall for that? Why is it that we are persuaded to hate someone so much? Why is it that we are so easily conned into being pawns in someone else's game? So let's talk in this video about the psychology of that process. What's happening in the gay man's life so that when he enters into the LGBT community, into the gay world, into the gay scene, he's so easily manipulated, he's so easily squeezed out of critical thinking, and instead he is taken into a cult-like following where everything is all about emotionalism, everything is all about passion, yet there are no principles anywhere to be found, and ultimately the person leads to or ends up inside of a struggle that for some men lasts a lifetime, especially when we talk about HIV and AIDS.
Hey, this is Angelo here. Welcome to another amazing video. I'm the founder of the Big Gay Family Social Program. I've been coaching and training for many years, and especially matchmaking, which is helping guys meet for love. I've been doing this for a long time, and I take this work very seriously, and I've been creating a very special program over the past several years called Big Gay Family. And it's a social program. It's not a matchmaking program. It's a social program that has an adventurous spin to it. Very unique, something you cannot receive anywhere else. So I would love for you to try it. I would love for you to come to the website to read about it and do the free enrollment so that you get to know how it works and how it can help you become the new you, the stronger you, the happy you, how it can bring you the friendships and relationships you always wanted. But because of the challenges of today's social scene, it's very difficult to connect, very difficult to bond. It seems like frustrations and negativity have taken over our community. So let's change that. Let's change it, and let's do it in a beautiful way, kind of like the mountains behind me. Let's do it in a special, sensitive, sensible, artistic way. The way that as gay men we always needed. We needed something deeper, something more creative. And so that's why the program is here for you. It is that creative expression of our gayness, embedded in a social program where the interactions are radically different. They're heightened in terms of beauty, in terms of experience, in terms of presence. The time slows down in the Big Gay Family social program. The time slows down in the program. Everything is expanded across many interactions. There's no rush. It's a different flow of the energy of friendships. Now, I'd love for you to taste it in the program. So thanks for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. To do that, please visit the website biggayfamily.com, follow the free enrollment series of videos, and please enroll. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the program.
So let's talk about the psychology. And I wanted to start out with an example that will illustrate some of this. Imagine a man who's closeted. He knows he's closeted. He suppresses himself. Imagine he's, say, 40 years old. He is married, but he knows he's gay. And he wants to come out, but he's afraid. He has kids, but he's experimenting sexually with other men. And finally, he can't take it anymore, and he comes out, and he is openly gay. What happens is that he goes in that process from suppression into this expression. And in that transition, he believes that when he enters into the gay scene, the gay world, into the LGBT community, that he does no longer have to suppress, hold back. He can now be completely himself. And he enters into the space of vulnerability, where he does not question the LGBT space, because he's promised that he now can be himself completely and fully, and inside of the LGBT community, everybody is fully happy, fully self-expressive, fully authentic, and it's like this paradise that he believes is his next experience of being gay. Because he does not know anything else, he is freshly out of the closet, all he knows is the games that he used to play with his ex-wife, with the people that he used to fuck around with, all the people that he tried to date, but they wouldn't date a closeted guy. So he knows he's been playing all these games. He now enters into the LGBT space, fully open, but at the same time, naive. Very, very naive. And so this is the beginning of understanding why is it that a lot of gay men, they come out, or they think they came out, but they came out with naivete, with lack of critical thinking, with lack of skepticism, with lack of evaluation of what's really happening in the gay space. Coming out, these are very emotional steps. These are very emotional moments of someone's life. This is, I can go as far as to say, this is probably one of the very few moments of a man's life where he's going to be surrendering himself, and he's going to be really vulnerable, very emotional, maybe going through a divorce, maybe going through a breakdown of family structure. So at the moment of becoming gay, he is not in a space of strength. He's not in a space of support and cohesion and structural strength. It's just the opposite. He is weak, he is weakened, he will be continually weakened for months to come until he understands what's really happening, and he's emotionally disoriented, because coming out is a very disorienting place, very unknown place. So he is counting, and he needs someone else's help, and he is on alert, observing what's happening around him. He's like a sponge. He's going to suck out of the culture whatever he sees and suck into his identity and integrate it. And if these ideas that he is following are viruses, he will become contaminated with those viruses, and he will spread those viruses to other gay men through sex, through conversations, chatting, texting, social media, and the virus spreads into culture, and on a mass level, gay men are programmed through this naivete kind of pathway at the moments when they're most vulnerable, as opposed to being given real ideas, real principles. They are giving ideas that are only one-sided, support only one direction, one way of thinking, one side. Everything about equality, no principles. Everything is subjective interpretation of ideas of self-expression, of equality, of basically social deconstructionism. Now, those of you who study philosophy, that's the name of it, social deconstruction, progressivism. Some of this is also liberalism, and that's just one side of it. That's great. There's nothing really essentially wrong with it, but it's only one side. And for someone who enters out of a space of chaos, who enters out of a space of emotional, structural, family, career, kind of decomposing space, which is what coming out usually carries with it, that person needs to enter back into structure. They need to enter back into pillars of support, principles they can hang on. They can hang on for their lives as they're coming out, as they are entering into the gay space. But instead they're decomposing, and the deconstruction is continuing through these dysfunctional ideas that the LGBT culture brings in. Many of the men who enter into the gay space, who enter into LGBT space, are men with identity problems, serious identity problems. Their parents may have been very anti-gay. And this is a serious thing, because you don't want to be living your life carrying with yourself the baggage of something being wrong with you, being unworthy, being a bad person. And so that affects our struggles, that affects our ability to survive them, that affects our ability to feel good about ourselves. When you look in the mirror, when you self-reflect, when you put your head on the pillow every day, you want to feel good and empowered. But instead, our parents, our environments, religious factors sweep our identity from our feet, and we feel lost. And so a person at that moment is very vulnerable. We don't have kind of this fully integrated gay confident identity. That identity is fragmented, and that identity will take many years to put together. And while that identity is being put together, you need to be around really clean ideas, really functional ideas that serve you, build your identity from the ground up. It's like when a transsexual person wants to transition, they don't need the transition information. They need to be brought back into identity and allow themselves to hang on the principles of identity, not pretend those principles don't exist, and give themselves a chance, give their biology a chance to revolve around those principles of identity and strengthen the whole composition of the person's psychic. And in the gay world, it's like in the transsexual world, we are giving these subjective, illusory, magical, fictional ideas that are actually creating the fragmentation even further, accelerating our overwhelm and confusion. And that's why we are so easily manipulated to, for example, hate Trump so much. It's so disproportionate, it's laughable. But people fall for it because they are indoctrinated into it. There's no logic anymore, because when the identity is not well put together, the emotionalism is accelerated. And why? Because there's a law of identity. If the identity is weak, the person will emotionally seek for validation. You can say passion or the emotional activation will be heightened to the degree that person's identity is weakened. So that's why we see all these people with weak identities, they're screaming the loudest, and it can become very dangerous to be part of that, because what these people need are not healing from the perspective of satisfying their emotional needs. Instead, these people need to be brought back into principles of centeredness, of neutrality and balance, not into allowing them to self-express their ideas regardless of their merit of reason. And that's exactly what we're happening, and all of this is weakening us, gay men. When you look at the 1970s, 1980s, you can easily see how it all happens, how it all started, and why it never really consolidated. The gay space never really consolidated. We still have no ideas, no philosophy. In the 60s, in America, in all the rural areas, gay men were suppressed beyond belief, beyond their ability to live a healthy life. And so in the 70s, you see all the men that were capable of leaving their rural areas, they moved all into San Francisco, into the metro areas, into the into New York City. And so that's where the gay places started to become alive. All the men who were so hungry for self-expression, they could not take it anymore. They erupted, the volcano erupted, and all these men went into the big metro areas in San Francisco, New York City. That's where the gay movements began. And what did they did in the 70s? They just exploded with sex. It was all about sex. You can actually learn about this by watching a documentary called Gay Sex in the 70s. It shows you people were practically living their porn life every day in the streets having sex. Imagine 1 million, lots of gay men moving from rural areas to, say, New York City. All of a sudden in the streets everybody's having sex, endless orgies, parties, and drugs. So that's in the 70s. And then out of that comes the 80s and AIDS. And then all the struggle, all the suffering, all the death, all the narrative development about what AIDS is, what HIV is, all the confusion, all the death, and all the reminders about death entering into the consciousness of every gay man ever born, ever entering into the LGBT community. Death everywhere. Death, expectations, fear of touching each other, fear of having sex. So imagine all of that. Do you believe good stuff is going to come out of that? Do you think good ideas will ever come out of that? Never. Good ideas need to come out of a good container. Great ideas, kind of like when you look at Silicon Valley right now, all the high-tech stuff. Why does it come out of the Silicon Valley? Because it's a cultural center. That whole area is vibrating with innovation, with new ideas, with technology, with abundance, with investment, with support. You see, that container creates technological innovation and progress. In the gay world, nothing like that ever existed. When you talk about San Francisco, when you talk about New York City, these were places that were the centers of death, the centers of destruction, the centers of suffering. So you can't have anything beautiful, anything spectacular, anything innovative that's transcendent come out of those spaces. And so that's why we've never seen anything good. We've never seen anything beautiful coming out of the LGBT community, and it never will be, because it's a community of men and women and transgender and people with identity spectrum, functional, dysfunctional. It's an area where we don't have people that are finished products. They are not finished products. And so because they're not finished products as human beings, because of all these complexities of identity formation, sexuality, and gender formation, all of that is somehow intercepted, never finished. We see only manipulation coming out of that, and only invitation to dysfunctional ways of living and being, supporting ideas that are not rooted in principles, are only rooted in stories of emotionalism, stories of over-emotionalism, as if though all of our lives should be dictated by feelings as opposed to principles. So you see a destruction of social norms, destruction of family, destruction of identity, destruction of masculinity, destruction of femininity. You see basically a going away of cultural norms that you used to take for granted, that actually kept society somehow somewhat safe and healthy and safe to be with, where you actually go out for a walk and you don't get killed, you don't get run over, because you feel safe, because your environment, your culture, your neighborhood has certain rules that everybody lives by, everybody supports themselves, each other, and you have a good community happening. But right now, it's not like that. It's all going away because we've got emotionalism taking over, hatred taking over, divisiveness taking over, and gay men are used for that. Also, transsexual people are used for that as well, because all of this at the end of the day is dysfunctional. A lot of the ideas from the LGBT culture are not proven by science. They're not proven by debates. They are one-sided. They are coming from one space and only one space. And you only realize they're not serving you by living up to a certain age and realizing you're not making any progress. You're not advancing. And you need to ask yourself, if I'm not advancing and I am part of this community, perhaps the community that you joined deserves a grade F. Failure, right? A community that's good for you is the community that takes you higher. Community that's bad for you, it's the community that keeps you regressive, that keeps you stuck, that keeps you struggling. You're not supposed to be struggling when you're part of the right community. You should give your community a grade. Grade your LGBT community by the way they're influencing you to progress in your life. I give it an F. I don't know, maybe you can give it a different grade. But because I gave it an F, I decided I cannot participate in such community that regresses me, that gives me these illusory ideas, functional ideas about equality, about gender, about sexuality, and because of it, because I don't listen to it, I progress. Because I don't listen to it, I don't fall into the traps, into the manipulations, into the setbacks, into the years and years of recovery that most people fall into because they were blindsided like horses looking into one direction, not knowing that there's another way of looking at your life, another way of looking at LGBT, another way of looking at AIDS and HIV, another way of looking at love, another way of looking at community development, another way of looking at your personal freedom, another way of persuading heterosexual men and women, another way of living a gay life that is more integrated with philosophical principles that are rooted in science, that are rooted in common sense and logic, not into emotionalism. Whoever screams the loudest has the voice. Mob rule, and that's what we see in the LGBT world. Whoever screams the loudest wins. Whoever has the craziest idea wins. Whoever has more emotions to express wins. At the end of the day, there's no progress because you can't make progress from emotions, because emotions are not tools of cognition. They're not tools of argumentation. They're not always tools of communication, especially when we need to get stuff done. When we need to get stuff done, we need those kind of men that say, hey, we all gonna come together, we're gonna follow these principles. Because we follow these principles, we're gonna agree on a certain kind of behavior. Because we agree on a certain kind of behavior, we're gonna have better times together, because we're gonna enjoy it more, because we're all behaving in a good way. There's ethics, there's morality, there is a standard, there is care, there is love, there is beauty. And layer by layer, you reconstruct all the interactions and all the exchanges that lead to healthy personal relationships. But right now, everything is undermined, everything is deconstructed, swept under your feet, and that's how you get manipulated to become a pawn in someone else's game. In the domain of politics, all the Trump hate, you are becoming a pawn in someone else's game. You're being used. Transsexual men and women are also being used to introduce the Equality Act, to introduce manipulation that is used as hate, that is used to lock people up for hate speech that is so subjective. Anyone that says anything negative about a transgender person or about a gay person will be locked up. And who knows how far this is going to go. Maybe even this might go as far as pre-crime, where because 4 years ago you posted a negative comment about transsexual person, that now the AI system discovers that you are more likely to commit a crime in 3 years. So we're going to lock you up for 3 months because we predict that your hate speech from the past will lead to a criminal behavior in the future. So all the things we have in the gay space, we are being pawned in someone else's game. Someone took over the gay space, and the LGBT community is taken into a direction that is not ours to claim. And so we need to wake up, and you need to stop being a pawn in someone else's game. The game of equality, diversity, all of these things have to be brought back into a logical understanding. Equality of what? Equality of opportunity, right? Everybody has a chance to start a business. Everybody has a chance to have a lover. Everybody has a chance to be successful. Everybody has a chance to lose weight. Everybody has a chance to learn how to exercise. But not everybody does. And so that's why people are different. That's why some people win and some people lose, because not everybody has the ambition, not everybody has the willingness to struggle. I have the willingness to struggle, that's why I achieve more. But doesn't mean I should share it with everyone, that it's all equal for everyone. It's not. Equality only exists of opportunity. Equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. The person that does not have the ambition, that does not have the drive, that doesn't want to spend 20 hours a week and take courses to become successful, that person does not deserve to succeed. That person does not deserve to find a lover if that person feels entitlement because they have a big dick and they don't have the mind that will produce love. They don't deserve love just because they have a big dick. They need to be the kind of person that attracts love to his life. You don't deserve to have a wonderful, beautiful body like mine if you don't do what I do in order to keep it this way. And I meditate, I exercise, I go for walks. I've been doing this for 30 years. So I deserve this body. This outcome is mine to deserve, to earn. Those people that go out and eat cheeseburgers, they eat fast food, they don't exercise, they don't take care of themselves, they don't deserve to have a healthy body. So equality is of opportunity, not of outcome. And the same thing about diversity. In terms of diversity, when we want diversity to work, we want diversity of good ideas, not diversity of dysfunctions. Diversity of dysfunctions, problems with identity, problems with gender, problems with sexuality, these things belong to a support system inside of a clinic. Inside of a clinic, not in the real world as a de facto standard for established participating inside of a functional community. It's not a functional community, it's a clinic. And it should be called a clinic, not a functional community. So in this video, I would like for you to reflect more about who you are as a gay man, your participation and involvement in the LGBT community, what that means, and how you want to think for yourself, how you want to be more skeptical about what you're being told, how you want to be more sensitive to the logical conclusions that you are drawing based on what you're hearing about Trump, about LGBT people, about Republicans, about Democrats. You want to have your awareness open and not take their answers, but think for yourself, and you'll see that you are being used, we are all being used, that the LGBT community is really not a community. It's basically like a cult because everything is based on emotionalism. All stories, but no principles. All stories, but no principles. And that's why I believe we are being conned, we are being pawned into, we're being used as pawns in someone else's game. And I walked away from it. I'm inviting you to walk away from it too.
Hey everybody, Angelo here again. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please share it with your friends or subscribe to my channel so that we grow together. For that, click on the button below and subscribe. And also, if you are interested in taking it to the next level, if you're interested in meeting men in a different way, please come to the Big Gay Family social program. And for that, visit the website biggayfamily.com. Again, I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. I'm looking forward to talking to you in the next video. Until we talk then, as always, my friends, go out there, think big, stay present, be a leader in your life today. Signing off, talk to you soon.
Turning quickly hand over hand, the clock is ticking, time is moving fast. Reviewing all the lessons we have learned from mistakes lost in the past.